Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Kalen DeBoer, this Alabama program have been rolling on the recruiting trail over the last couple of weeks now. We've broken down the commitments as they've come in for this Alabama program. Today, I want to take a step back and talk two things. One, talk about some top targets for Alabama over the next couple of weeks, maybe preview some commitments that we could see coming down the line. More importantly, have the conversation on how Kalen DeBoer has been able to come into this Alabama program and largely continue the dominance on the recruiting trail that was established by Nick Saban. That was largely the big question we had about Kalen DeBoer coming into this Alabama program. And those questions over the last couple of weeks definitely starting to be answered. Really excited to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, and it is no secret, I really do have a blast covering the recruiting trail at the college football level. Cannot thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we will be doing our very best to keep you guys as updated as possible with all the commitments coming in Alabama's way over the next couple of months. And without further ado, let's get into this one now. We have the 2025 class, which is already a top 15 class with only 5 commits in the boat for Alabama in 2025. And the last couple of weeks have been massive for Kalen DeBoer, right? It started when he got to Alabama, was able to lock in the commitment from 5-star Ryan Williams in the 2024 class. That was kind of that signature win where you go up against teams like Texas A&M, like Auburn, who are making late pushes, and Kalen DeBoer able to win out for Ryan Williams. But you take a look at the last couple of weeks, right? 4-star wide receiver Derek Smith, 4-star defensive lineman Antonio Coleman, all guys that we've talked about as the commitments have come in. Kind of begs the question, how has Kalen DeBoer been able to continue this success? I think the large thing that not a lot of people were talking about, and a lot of people chose to focus on the unknowns, right? Kalen DeBoer not necessarily recruiting the best at Washington, which is a far different program to recruit at than it is at Alabama. There's just a different meaning behind the logo that you see at Alabama. But more importantly, I think a lot of people questioned the relationships that he had in the Southeast, and can he kind of go head-to-head with Kirby Smart and Hugh Freeze and win out for those top prospects in that region, having never coached there before. Now, I think it comes down to, what do these kids care about coming from the high school ranks to the college ranks? And I think it largely comes down to two things. You'll hear NIL be thrown out a lot. No doubt that plays a role in the recruiting process. But at the end of the day, a lot of these kids, they care about, can I get developed to go to the NFL, and can I go compete for national championships? And both Kalen DeBoer has not only shown during his time at Washington, but also, the standard at Alabama as well in terms of developing NFL talent and winning national championships. Now, you look at Kalen DeBoer, and I think something that largely got probably glossed over, not talked about nearly enough, is the player development that you saw take place at the Washington Huskies program during his time there. You look at that Washington team in 2023, the team that just competed for a national championship, Michael Penix at the quarterback spot, probably going to be a first-round NFL draft pick. You look at the 2 offensive tackles, 2 guys that are going to go in the NFL draft. They had 3 wide receivers going to the NFL draft, a running back and tight end that will be selected in the NFL draft. Largely, over half of that offense will be going to the NFL in less than 12 months. And then you look to the defensive side of the football, and the NFL talent is certainly there as well. Guys like Braylon Trice going to the NFL. A large conversation that not a lot of people had was the proof in the pudding of Kalen DeBoer developing NFL talent. That was always Nick Saban's selling card, right? He would take down those recruits down that walkway of all the NFL names that have played for Alabama. And that was his best recruiting pitch. Hey, you come to Alabama, you are going to get developed into an NFL football player. And I think largely Kalen DeBoer can continue that biggest selling piece because he did it at a program like the Washington Huskies. There's no reason to think he can't do it in Tuscaloosa. And you look at all the success that he's had developing quarterbacks, not only at a stop at Washington, but Fresno State. We're largely talking about one of the best offensive masterminds that you see in college football. The talent is going to want to come play for Kalen DeBoer, whether he's in Seattle, Washington, or Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Now, I want to get into a little bit more of an exciting conversation. That is, what do the next couple of weeks look like for this Alabama program on the recruiting trail. And one thing you can't argue is that attraction to the Alabama program is certainly still there. The amount of visitors that they're hosting every single weekend is quite frankly incredible. And it's going to continue throughout the late spring months and into the summer months. Now, I want to talk about a few guys that I really identified as some of my favorite players in this 2025 class and guys that are kind of trending potentially towards Alabama. And I want to start with a 4-star linebacker that's committing on March 20th in the next couple days, and that's Daryl Johnson, one of my favorite linebackers in this 2025 class. And a really interesting story. You're talking about a guy with an 80-plus inch wingspan that really just does it all at the high school level. He's making that transition from defensive back to off-ball linebacker, but you turn on the film for a guy like Daryl Johnson from the state of Georgia, you're seeing him line up as a nickelback. You're seeing him line up as an edge rusher. You're seeing him line up as an off-ball linebacker. He even plays quarterback at the high school level because he's just a juiced-up athlete, and this high school wants him touching the football as many times as they can get him per game. You're talking about, in my mind, an elite athlete at that linebacker position. And you look at some of the traits that you want in this modern world of college football. You need linebackers that have all the athleticism in the world, going out, tackling running backs in the flat, carrying tight ends up the seam. Daryl Johnson, with all of his experience playing defensive back at the high school ranks, you're getting not only a hyper athlete at that linebacker spot, you're getting a guy that is elite in coverage as well. Now, we'll get into the film if he does, in fact, commit to Alabama on Wednesday. This is a guy that is one of my favorite prospects in the class. And again, we'll break it down if it does happen on Wednesday. Very exciting prospect for Alabama. Now, going to the offensive side of the football, this is where I really expect Kalen DeBoer to really work some magic, right? You look at the offense that he put out for the Washington Huskies over the last couple of years. You look at the talent that's going to the NFL draft, guys like Michael Penix, guys like Roma Duzne. These are top playmakers. Whether you're a quarterback, whether you're a wide receiver, you want to go play for Kalen DeBoer. And a guy that seemingly is identified as a top target for Alabama is 5-star quarterback Julian Lewis, who, for the SEC fans who follow the recruiting trail, y'all knew who Julian Lewis was as a freshman in high school. He was the former number 1 prospect in the 2024 class, or 2026 class, reclassifies to 2025. And is one of the more productive and efficient quarterbacks that you see in the country. This is a guy that not only has the numbers to back it up, over 7,200 passing yards over the last 2 years, 96 touchdowns to 14 interceptions at one of the best high schools in the state of Georgia. The thing that I love about Julian Lewis the most, and quite frankly, the similarities I see between him and Michael Penix, is the command of the offense. Now, Michael Penix has a phenomenal arm, just like Julian Lewis, but what made Michael Penix special and what I think makes Julian Lewis special is when you turn on the film for both of these guys, the command that they have of the offense in terms of the processing, the ball coming out quick, on time, accurately, that's what sets them apart, right? We all know 5-star quarterbacks, they're going to come in with phenomenal arm talent. That's not a question to be asked. I think a large question that you look in terms of separating some of these top quarterbacks is what's between the ears. And just like Michael Penix, I think Julian Lewis brings a lot of those intangibles to the game that Michael Penix did. And I think this would be not only fitting like a glove, but this would be another kind of signature win. Now, he's committed to USC. He's taken visits to Georgia. He's taken visits to Alabama and Auburn. This recruitment largely seems open. And you look at the pull that Kalen DeBoer has in terms of quarterbacks and wide receivers. Really excited about Julian Lewis. Now, another guy I want to talk about real quick is 5-star offensive tackle David Sanders Jr., who, again, Alabama right in the running to. And again, the proof's in the pudding. And Kalen DeBoer just had both of his offensive tackles go to the NFL draft from that 2023 season. David Sanders is there's a reason he's the number 2 prospect in the country in this 2025 class. 6'6", 270. Yes, he has to fill out the frame. What you can't teach is the elite athleticism and frame David Sanders Jr. has. 36-plus inch arms. You're talking about some of the longer arms that you'll see at the college football level, and you combine that with the functional athleticism David Sanders Jr. has. It is truly special. Now, a little bit of a different flavor than a guy like Caden Proctor, who just came in the minute he stepped on the field was kind of college football size. David Sanders probably needs some work in terms of getting that body right, but the best athlete at that tackle position in this class, in the upside for him, in my mind, is the top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Last guy I want to talk about that I really think that Alabama probably going to get in the middle of is four-star wide receiver Derrik Meadows from Bishop Gorman out in Las Vegas, Nevada. I think, one, the relationship with Kalen DeBoer is already there. No doubt Kalen DeBoer had contact with Derrik Meadows when he was at Washington. But more importantly, you look at where they were able to get Ryan Williams in the class. You just turn on the film of, hey, this is what our wide receivers look like for Washington. You want to come play here. You want to come put up the numbers you saw Roma Duzne put up at Washington. Derrik Meadows, you talk about dripping with talent, a guy that is still rough around the edges, hasn't necessarily produced like a top 100 national prospect, 6'5", 200 pounds, a state champ in the 100-meter hurdles. That is special for a guy that is 6'5", 200. And when you turn on the film, you see the raw athleticism that he has. And now I think he just needs a little bit more polish, which I think Kalen DeBoer certainly can provide for Derrik Meadows. This is another target that I would expect Alabama to really get into as we work into the summer months. You look at Alabama, I chose to kind of give you guys four of my favorite prospects. Excuse me. It's a laundry list of guys that are considering Alabama, that are interested in Alabama. And at the end of the day, Kalen DeBoer, I think, selling a very similar package that Nick Saban was able to sell. And that is, you come to Alabama, you're going to go to the NFL. And I think that's the kind of the secret sauce, if you will, for Kalen DeBoer and why he's been able to have so much success in a short time at Tuscaloosa. I expect Kalen DeBoer to make some waves on the recruiting trail over the next couple of weeks and months. We'll break down the commitments as they come in. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all